There's a specific kind of tired that happens at work, not from your own work, from someone else's. Someone on your team keeps not being able to handle something. They ask for help. You help. It happens again. You help again. And quietly, without anyone agreeing to anything, their job became part of yours. You didn't get a new title. You didn't get a raise. You just got a longer to-do list and the vague feeling that saying no would make you look bad. What happened to you has a name. It's called weaponized incompetence, and the people who use it don't sound like slackers. They sound polite, humble, even complimentary. There are 5 phrases they use. I'm going to show you all 5, and after each one, I'll give you the exact line to shut it down. Weaponized incompetence is when someone performs helplessness, not because they genuinely can't, because playing dumb is easier than doing the work. The key word is perform. Because they're not struggling, they're strategic. And the most unsettling part isn't that it happens. It's that it works, because every phrase comes wrapped in something that sounds humble, or grateful, or even flattering. And if you're the kind of person who takes their work seriously, those phrases are nearly impossible to say no to. Here's what they sound like. Praise 1. You're so much better at this than me. On the surface, this is a compliment. That's exactly why it works. When someone says you're better at something, it activates a very specific belief. You're the competent one. The reliable one. Saying no suddenly feels selfish, like withholding a skill you clearly have. But here's what's actually happening. They've identified that you're good at something, and they've found a way to make your competence their excuse not to try. Notice what they're not saying. Not I tried and struggled. Not can you show me how. What they're saying, dressed in admiration, is you do it. The tell is repetition. Someone who genuinely admires your skill will eventually try to learn it. Someone using this phrase will come back with it every single time, for the same task, indefinitely, because the goal was never to improve. The goal was to hand off the work while making you feel good about receiving it. The redirect. Walk me through what you've tried so far. That one question changes the entire dynamic. It moves the conversation from your capability to their effort. If they've tried nothing, that becomes visible. If they have, you can actually help them learn. Phrase 2. I don't really know how to do this. This one sounds honest. Sometimes it is. The problem is what comes after it. A person with a real skill gap will try. They'll make an attempt, ask a question, make progress. Over time, they get better. The requests slow down. That's what a genuine skill gap looks like. Temporary. Weaponized incompetence looks different. The confusion never resolves. No matter how many times you explain the process, they're back next week, starting from 0. The helplessness is permanent because it has to be. The moment they actually learn the task, they own it. And owning it means doing it. Psychologists call this pattern learned helplessness. Repeated experiences of not being held responsible create a belief that you genuinely can't do things independently. Sometimes it's unconscious. The person isn't aware they're doing it, but the effect on you is identical either way. You end up doing the work, and they end up with the precedent. The redirect. Let me show you once, and then you try it while I'm here. You're not refusing to help. You're refusing to do it for them. There's a difference, and the way you phrase it makes that difference visible. We're halfway through. 3 more phrases to go, and the next 2 are the ones that are genuinely hard to argue with because they come with evidence. Phrase 3. Remember last time when I did it and it went badly? This is the most sophisticated of the 5 because it points to history. They're not just claiming they can't do it. They've built a track record of failure, and they're using that record as a permanent transfer of responsibility. Here's what's worth noticing. Think about when that failure happened. Think about what it actually looked like. Because in a lot of cases, the bad outcome wasn't accidental. The task was done just poorly enough to ensure they'd never be asked again. Not catastrophically, just badly enough. This is sometimes called premeditated incompetence. The failure was the strategy. They took one visible loss to win every future round. And it works because it's hard to argue with. They did try. It did go badly. But you're standing in the wreckage of a deliberate outcome and being asked to clean it up. The redirect. That was one time. Let's try it again with a clearer brief. I'll check in at the halfway point. You're not erasing their history. You're declining to let one past outcome become a permanent policy. Phrase 4. I keep forgetting. I didn't know that was on me. Forgetfulness is human. Everyone drops things occasionally. The version that crosses into weaponized incompetence isn't an occasional miss. It's a pattern, and the pattern has a very specific shape. They forget the tasks they don't want. They remember everything else perfectly. Their own deadlines, the meeting where they were recognized, the policy that benefits them. But the shared responsibility, the task that lives in the gray zone between their role and yours, they'll reliably forget that. Every time. What makes this phrase effective is the blame it quietly redistributes. I didn't know that was on me implies the communication failed, that you weren't clear, that no one told them. And if you accept that, you'll try to be clearer next time. And they'll still forget. The task doesn't have a home because they've made sure it doesn't. Homeless tasks always end up with the person who can't stand leaving things undone. And that person is usually you. The redirect. Let's document this as yours going forward. I'll copy your manager so it's clear. Not punitive, just precise. Ownership needs a name attached to it. Phrase 5. That's not really my area. You'd be much faster at it. This is 2 phrases working together. The first half sets an artificial boundary. The second half flatters you across it. Not my area sounds like professionalism, like scope management, like someone who knows their role and respects limits. But scope is defined by job descriptions and managers, not by whoever feels like opting out on a Tuesday. What this phrase actually does is create a personal policy. A policy they invented, that no one approved, that conveniently exempts them from anything inconvenient. And then, crucially, they hand you the reason to accept it. You're faster. You're better. It makes more sense for you. By the time you finish nodding, you've absorbed the task, absorbed the logic for why you should, and left them with clean hands. The redirect. Let's check with the manager on whose plate this actually sits. That one move takes the decision out of both your hands. If it's genuinely not their area, a manager will confirm that. If it is, the conversation just got a lot more honest. You've now heard all 5, and you'll notice the redirects aren't confrontational. You're not accusing anyone of anything. You're not refusing to help. You're being precise about ownership. Because here's the thing, the goal isn't to punish them. The goal is to stop funding the behavior. Every task you quietly absorb is a task that never finds its rightful owner. And every time you absorb it, you teach them that the strategy works. There is a second game being played right next to you. You just didn't know the rules. Now you do. You can't afford to keep subsidizing someone else's career at the cost of your own energy. And you don't have to. That's the work you should stop doing. If you've ever felt this, that creeping resentment of doing work that isn't yours without being able to name exactly why it bothers you, drop a comment with the phrase you've heard most. I want to know which one is most common in your office. I'm Sky. Go home on time today. You've earned it. I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more such videos.